It's been a pleasure to look at and, discussions and also all the deliberations about Macmillan. It is indeed actually a very, very innovative and much needed solution, like just right in time for the teachers. Now, whatever I'm essentially a teacher. Uh, and we have all been grappling with certain challenges as teachers, especially around this pandemic, which has been a major disruption. Any disruption leads to something really good, and I think this is one of the outcomes. All said and done, human beings evolve. We have always evolved and will continue to. Change is the only constant. Education has to evolve alongside. If we stick to the old methods, as very early on in this discussion, one of you pointed out a quote by John Dewey, we cannot teach them the way we were taught. But very much a teacher, any teacher, it's also research that tells us this, that any teacher teaches the way they were taught. That becomes the way we teach. And therefore, adapting to change is very tough as a teacher as well as a parent. So when we are in a school, we are dealing with parents also. And of course, children are at the center of it, and teaching community as well. A solution that can help each end of the spectrum is what I see Altura as. Our National Education Policy 2020 talks about a 360-degree report card, respect for teachers, children taking ownership for their own learning. All of these ideas and much more has been put together, I think, to bring together this Altura as very, very rightly pointed out by Mr. Rajesh earlier. It's not a patchwork. It's a compendium. It's a comprehensive solution, and that is why it is wonderful. Gone are the days when we would expect children to learn information or to have questions and answers in class and so on and so forth. So children are very different today, and the requirements are very different. A few days ago, problem solving was brought in as one of the very key skills. CBSE pointed it out and it was put in. Value education, we have always harped about. Point is, now we've even moved ahead from problem solving. It is not just problem solving. The child also needs to identify what is the problem to be solved. So that to be able to do that, education needs to be relevant, not just quality. To be able to do that, the child will have to think critically. So critical thinking is no longer for higher education and PhDs and so on. When we start delving deep into research and thinking, it starts right at the beginning, actually even in early childhood, and it just moves on. Primary years are very fundamental, the formative years, when really children develop the way they think and develop the way they learn, and it grows on them as they grow older. Very, very key again is at this stage the kind of creativity that can develop, the creative kind of thinking that can develop. If they are studying science, scientific thinking, if they are studying language, understanding the nuances of language and questioning and curiosity, that needs to continue ignited for a child. At the same time, that emotional underpinning is equally important and necessary. In fact, way more necessary than ever before, because our children today, and we all, live in a world of instant gratification. That emotional intelligence, that ability for resilience, it's required, it needs to be built. And when I look at a lot of aspects of Altura, I see a lot of these covered in, a lot of these built in, research-based thinking built in, experiences built in, which are going to form, which are going to stay with children. Words don't stay. Those experiences matter and they stay with children. They leave that mark which is required. Lots of opportunity for collaborative work and learning together, and team building built in. All of these are very, very key. Now, and many of these are termed as 21st century skills. I don't see them as 21st century. I mean, we're already, one generation has grown into this century. And all these skills, I think for anybody successful today, were always required. We just probably were too busy in an education scenario which was built for the industrialization era. We're way beyond it. It's a very different kind of era today, and what has become forefront is these skills. Now, as somebody already said, it's not what to learn, but learning how to learn. One very key aspect of this is that learning is a very passionate, experiential, and a reflective process. It's a process of reflective feedback. You look at something, you learn something new, you find out more about it, and then you want to see how much really did you understand. So assessment is completely intertwined with any curriculum. You can't think of it as something other than the curriculum itself. What Altura provides within is this assessment. And then when we talk of assessment, it is not, assessment cannot be just pen paper. Assessment cannot be just something used to judge somebody. That is not at all what assessment has ever meant to be, was ever meant to be. Unfortunately, many people tend to think of it as that. But assessment is for the teacher to be able to understand whatever I was trying to do, how much of it worked, how much of it worked for whom. The next step is to personalize and see, okay, as somebody said, that the last child, I need to reach out to the last child. Now, there is not just a last child. There is also that very gifted and talented child. So there are both ends of the spectrum. I cannot teach to the average and keep wondering that, the others will somehow learn. The teacher to be able to reach out to each one for their unique and very different requirements, because each learner must make progress in the classroom, including here the learner is a teacher, also the learner. So including the teacher, each one must make progress. So we all need to be able to find out where the gaps are. We all need to be able to analyze and do that SWOT. And we all need to be able to then also identify what is the next step. What am I, where am I, what do I do to improve from here? Each aspect where I've gone wrong, that acceptance of failure is built into the system now. Without that, we'll never have children developing growth mindsets. And I think this is something which is inbuilt in the system with a lot of technical support and help for not just the teacher, but also the parent. The parent can also see things are broken down into smaller elements and aspects wherein it helps you analyze. It's not a number that can ever help anybody analyze anything, or a grade point for that matter. It is the learning outcomes that matter. It is what really am I looking for that matters. How does it apply to my life, and am I able to use it anywhere in real life? Am I able to really see its impact and different perspectives of different people across the globe about this particular aspect? All of it put together matters. For all of this, the textbook is a tool. The textbook is not a be-all and end-all of education. What is very beautifully seen, I think, in this series, and for which I would like to congratulate the entire Macmillan team, is that you have seen the teacher as the person who needs the support. We just saw that video that you played, wherein one of the things interestingly mentioned was that the teacher will also have some me time. That's something very, very key and important. I think this whole pandemic has been a hugely pressurizing situation for teachers. Teachers have put in a lot of hard work, and very often you find parents seeing the textbook as everything. If the textbook says this is that, this is there, this is there, this is there, all of it needs to be done. That's not how education works. The teacher really needs to be able to pick and choose and decide, and the curriculum is built around not just one thing but many things, and textbook should be a good tool in her hands and the child's hands. Another very key aspect is that the child needs to get ownership for learning. As the NEP says, and we have all been saying, and any progressive educator will echo that with me. A lot has happened where children have, over this time, to a great extent, been given some ownership, and in certain cases not. But any textbook if it keeps in mind that the child should be able to do this or read this and understand, and if needed, find the help needed, explore and figure out on their own independently, then that is bound to be way more successful than anything else. And I think that independent learning quotient is also very well put into the system in this series. And I really congratulate Team Macmillan. All the hard work put in has been very evident. I've been looking at quite a bit of it, and some of the ideas have brought smiles to my face very often. And it's something to be cherished. I'm sure teachers and students will really, really admire the hard work you have done.